You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your Security Plus certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Penetration testing, often shortened to pen testing, is an objective-driven assessment that simulates attacker techniques in a controlled and authorized way. Unlike general security checks, the purpose of a pen test is to think and act like an adversary to discover weaknesses before real attackers can exploit them. The goal is not chaos or destruction, but structured exploration of vulnerabilities, exploitation paths, and their potential business impact. For example, a pen test might demonstrate that a misconfigured web server could allow lateral movement into a payroll system. By simulating real-world tactics safely, penetration testing helps organizations validate defenses, prioritize remediation, and strengthen resilience. It is important to distinguish between vulnerability scanning and a pen test. Vulnerability scanning is automated. It checks systems against known weaknesses and produces a list of issues. Penetration testing goes further by applying an attacker's mindset, chaining vulnerabilities together, testing real exploitation paths, and producing proof-of-concept results. For instance, a scan may flag weak credentials, but a pen test may prove that those credentials can be used to gain administrator rights and extract sensitive records. Where scans provide breadth, pen tests provide depth, realism, and context, helping organizations focus on risks that truly matter. Legal and ethical prerequisites must always be in place before testing begins. Unauthorized penetration testing, even for good purposes, can break laws and cause harm. Organizations must define rules of engagement, ROE, secure formal written authorization, and clarify scoping constraints. This agreement spells out what is allowed and what is off-limits, ensuring the test is safe, consensual, and transparent. For example, testing may be restricted to non-production systems or scheduled only during business hours. Without explicit authorization and clear ROE, a pen test risks being indistinguishable from an attack, leading to legal exposure and loss of trust. The standard penetration testing process follows several phases. It begins with planning, where goals, scope, and authorization are agreed upon. Reconnaissance follows, collecting information about targets through passive and active methods. Exploitation is the attempt to use vulnerabilities to gain access. Privilege escalation explores whether limited access can be expanded into broader control. Post-exploitation looks at persistence, lateral movement, and potential business impact. Finally, reporting documents, findings, and remediation. These phases mirror how real attackers operate, but apply structure and safety, giving organizations a realistic picture of their defenses in action. Safe testing principles ensure that pen tests strengthen security without causing damage. Testers must avoid destructive actions like overwriting data or crashing systems. They should preserve evidence carefully, documenting each step in logs and screenshots, so results are reproducible and defensible. Communication channels must remain open during testing to handle emergencies, such as a test unexpectedly impacting production services. A safe test validates vulnerabilities, but does not create real-world damage. This discipline allows organizations to benefit from attacker-style insights while ensuring their systems remain functional and trustworthy throughout the process. Types of penetration tests differ by the level of information provided to the tester. A black box test gives no internal knowledge, simulating an external attacker's perspective. Gray box tests provide partial knowledge, such as limited credentials, reflecting insider threats or compromised accounts. White box tests provide full internal knowledge, such as source code or architecture diagrams, focusing on depth rather than discovery. Each type is useful in different contexts: black box for external resilience, gray box for blended threats, and white box for control validation. Selecting the right model depends on the goals, risks, and systems under review. Target scoping defines the boundaries of a penetration test. Assets in scope may include specific applications, servers, or networks, while out-of-scope assets are excluded to avoid unnecessary risk. Business hour constraints may prevent disruptive tests during peak operations. and acceptable impact levels define how far testers can go. For example, a test may allow credential harvesting but forbid denial of service attempts. Clear scoping ensures expectations are aligned, risks are minimized, and results are relevant. Without well-defined scope, tests risk drifting into areas that are either irrelevant or harmful. Pen testers use a wide range of tools, but always responsibly and within scope. Scanners identify potential vulnerabilities. Exploit frameworks, such as Metasploit, simulate attacks against known flaws. Proxy tools intercept and manipulate traffic to test web applications. Custom scripts fill gaps where commercial tools fall short. The tools themselves are not inherently malicious. What matters is how they are used under controlled authorization. A disciplined tester leverages them to uncover weaknesses without harming systems, demonstrating both technical capability and ethical restraint. Evidence collection is critical for credibility. Findings must include reproducible steps, clear proof-of-concept demonstrations, and logs showing how vulnerabilities were discovered. Proofs should be non-destructive, for example, showing that access could be gained to a restricted system without actually exfiltrating sensitive data. Documentation should be detailed enough that system owners can replicate results for verification, but not so dangerous that instructions enable real attackers. Evidence transforms a test from subjective opinion into defensible fact, ensuring that remediation is based on verified and prioritized issues. Post-test activities close the loop between testing and improvement. Remediation validation involves retesting after fixes are applied, confirming vulnerabilities are truly resolved. Debriefs with system owners provide context, explaining findings and recommendations clearly. Lessons learned may inform detection tuning, helping security teams spot similar attempts in the future. For example, if testers exploited weak logging practices, the outcome may be not only fixing those weaknesses but also improving monitoring alerts. Post-test steps ensure that testing translates into real security gains rather than a static report. Reporting is one of the most valuable outputs of penetration testing. A strong report includes an executive summary that non-technical leaders can understand, highlighting business impact and strategic risks. It also provides detailed technical findings with risk ratings, reproduction steps, and remediation guidance. Verification guidance helps owners confirm fixes independently. Without clear reporting, valuable testing insights may be misunderstood or ignored. Reports bridge the gap between technical testing and organizational action, making penetration testing a driver of measurable improvements. A practical starter exercise helps make these principles tangible. Draft a one-page rules of engagement document for a low-risk internal network penetration test. Define the scope as one subnet of non-production systems, list allowed techniques such as password brute forcing within policy limits, and designate contacts for emergency stoppage. The stated goal might be to validate lateral movement controls between systems. This exercise ensures the test is authorized, scoped, and safe, demonstrating how structure turns potentially risky activities into constructive, accountable assessments. By the end of Part 1, learners should recognize that penetration testing is not ad hoc hacking, but a structured, authorized, and evidence-driven practice. It provides depth, realism, and actionable guidance beyond vulnerability scans. With the foundations in place, Part 2 will explore red team differences, detection tuning, safe data handling, and metrics to ensure penetration testing delivers long-term value. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Penetration tests differ from red team engagements in both scope and intent. A pen test is focused, time-limited, and usually designed to identify and validate specific vulnerabilities. It asks, what weaknesses exist, and how might they be exploited? A red team exercise is broader and longer in duration, often lasting weeks or months, and its goal is not only to exploit weaknesses, but also to test an organization's ability to detect and respond. For example, a pen test may end after proving privilege escalation on one server, while a red team engagement may continue to simulate persistence, lateral movement, and full attack campaigns. Findings from penetration tests must be prioritized using risk rating frameworks. Many organizations combine CVSS, Common Vulnerability Scoring System, with business impact to calculate true severity. For instance, the vulnerability with a medium CVSS score might be high for a financial institution if it impacts payment systems. By blending technical severity with context, organizations ensure remediation focuses on what matters most to business operations. Without risk-based prioritization, teams may waste resources patching low-risk flaws while leaving critical issues exposed. A disciplined rating framework ensures effort matches risk. Safe data handling is essential during pen testing. Even if testers gain access to sensitive data such as personal records, they must not exfiltrate or copy real information. Instead, they use synthetic data, redacted samples, or demonstrate access without extracting content. For example, proving access to a payroll system might be as simple as showing the ability to query employee records, not downloading them. This principle prevents accidental breaches caused by the test itself. Evidence must strike a balance demonstrating impact convincingly without exposing or mishandling real sensitive data. Coordination with change control and operations prevents confusion between tests and real incidents. Without communication, a pen test could trigger alarms and cause staff to escalate as if under active attack. To avoid this, organizations notify operations teams about test windows, whitelist test source IPs, or predefine escalation protocols. For example, if a simulated phishing campaign is part of the test, leadership and security operations must know it is authorized. Coordination ensures operational continuity and prevents unnecessary panic while still preserving the realism of testing. Metrics allow organizations to measure the value of pen tests. Useful indicators include the number of exploitable vulnerabilities confirmed, the average time to compromise critical systems, and the types of control bypasses discovered. For example, a test might reveal that testers compromised a domain controller in under 2 hours, indicating weak lateral movement defenses. These metrics not only quantify technical risk but also help track improvement over time. By turning pen tests into measurable outputs, organizations ensure that results are not one-off reports but part of continuous improvement. Converting test findings into detection rules strengthens defensive monitoring. For instance, if a test exploited weak authentication to access an admin panel, security teams can implement new alerts to detect similar brute force attempts. Lessons from exploitation become inputs to security information and event management. SIEM rules, intrusion detection signatures, or endpoint monitoring. This approach ensures testing feeds the detect function of defense, not just the prevent. A mature program uses pen tests to sharpen detection capabilities, making the organization better prepared for real attacks. Retest discipline is critical. Once vulnerabilities are remediated, testers must verify that fixes are effective and do not introduce regressions. For example, applying a patch might close one hole but inadvertently break logging or authentication, creating new risks. Retesting confirms not only that the issue is fixed, but that the environment is stable. Closing the loop with owners also builds confidence for executives, customers, and regulators that vulnerabilities were not just identified but fully resolved. Without retests, organizations risk assuming false security from incomplete fixes. Vendor and third-party scope considerations are increasingly important in pen tests. Many systems are hosted in cloud platforms or managed by suppliers, requiring contractual provisions for testing. Engaging external testers may also require processor attestations, clarifying that no data will be exfiltrated and that testing complies with local laws. For example, cloud providers often require advance notification and approval for penetration tests. Addressing third-party constraints up front ensures compliance and avoids liability, while still validating shared environments where critical risks may reside. Transparency versus secrecy is a delicate balance when testing production systems. Too much transparency may compromise realism, as defenders know exactly when and where the test will occur. Too little secrecy risks unplanned disruptions or misinterpretations. A balanced approach might involve informing leadership and security teams of the general timeframe, but not the precise attack vector. This minimizes risk to production systems while preserving an element of realism. By managing this trade-off carefully, organizations ensure testing provides useful insights without introducing unacceptable risk. Documenting lessons learned is as important as reporting findings. Beyond vulnerabilities, pen tests often uncover missed signals, gaps in tooling, or procedural weaknesses. For example, testers may find that intrusion attempts went undetected by monitoring tools, signaling the need for better logging or alert tuning. Documenting these lessons informs broader operational changes and future test scopes. Lessons learned reports turn tactical findings into strategic improvement opportunities, reinforcing that penetration testing is not just about flaws, but about system-wide resilience. Microtests, or small periodic assessments, help validate controls between full-scale pen tests. These lightweight exercises might focus on a single control, such as testing password policies or firewall rules, conducted more frequently to keep defenses sharp. For example, quarterly microtests might validate that new patches are applied correctly or that access controls remain intact. Microtests are less disruptive than full assessments, but ensure continuous assurance. They act as a bridge between annual or biannual pen tests, embedding resilience testing into ongoing operations. Ultimately, a good penetration test is scoped, authorized, evidence-driven, and always followed by prioritized remediation and verification. It is not a hacker stunt, but a disciplined process that blends attacker realism with professional ethics and structured reporting. Effective pen tests feed results back into detection systems, remediation workflows, and lessons learned reviews. By treating them as recurring, constructive engagements, organizations ensure that testing reduces real-world risk, improves controls, and demonstrates a proactive commitment to resilience and compliance. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.